The first question, the sister said, me and my husband are planning to homeschool, inshallah. And not big on worldly studies. Daughter is 3.5. What should we start off with? Recommended books to memorize and learn. Can you please provide us with a clear roadmap? So 3.5, very good, mashallah. A child that's 3 years and a half, 2 more years, or maybe a year, 4 years old, the child start memorizing the Quran. But before you start the memorization of the Quran at the age of 4, you should start by teaching the child the alphabets, the Arabic alphabets, alif, ba, ta, tha, jim. He learns all of those, how to write them. He learns how to connect them. He learns the 6 naughty letters that you can't connect from the other side. Alif, dal, ra, wa, zad, and waw. 6 letters. Those, I call them the naughty letters. So in other words, you can't connect it from this side, right? Yeah? They're naughty. So those letters, he learns them and not to connect them. So he learns how to write properly. Or she learns how to write, your daughter. Once the child learns how to write, okay, and to read, that's a benefit for you, because then they can read the Quran nicely. Once they do that, you buy big headphones, soundproof. You put it on, and there's a website called muqri.com. Is it called muqri.com? Muqri.com. I don't work for them. They've not told me to sponsor them, but they're very beneficial. They're called what? Muqri.com. The beauty of this website is the mother can get a phone, her own phone that she uses, put the headphone, Bluetooth headphones. Okay? You get that Bluetooth headphones, you put it in. What it does is that blocks the sound from other places. You make the child face the wall. Okay? Genuinely what's better is that it's a room which there's no distractions. The mother sits there. Okay? And you put on 2 reciters. Only 2 reciters. Mahmoud Khalil al-Husari and Minshawi. Muhammad Sadiq al-Minshawi. That's exactly what I'm telling you is what I did. Okay? The child he would listen to that reciter very well. Each verse, it's repeated 10 times. But if you download the Tajweed Quran app, it will go up to 50 times per verse and 50 times per page. So you make the page 50 times and each verse 50 times. And you do not let the child move from that position until he listens to it 50 times the page and 50 times each verse. Are we all together? Crosses his legs. Do you know how many discipline that you just taught your child? Concentration. And the mushaf is right on his lap. Focus. Discipline. Cross your legs. Hours on hours. You won't see that child running around. Are we all together? And repetition and hearing things benefit children a lot. Are we all together? For a year or 2, I made Ibrahim and his comrades. I made them write the page how many times? Each page you write it 3 times. Their hand, Dad, please. You got 2 more left. So they write the page. Do you know what they get from that? Oh, it sticks in their head. And also what happens? The second benefit that it has is they learn how to write from the mushaf. The Arabic on the mushaf is different from the what? Good. And your child's handwriting becomes good as well. So there's a lot of benefits in that as well. Once the child memorized the Quran, okay, Ibrahim, he finished the Quran at age of 8. His sister younger than him, she finished at 8 as well. His older sister finished at 9. She's the oldest that's finished. 9. Another one is on the way right now. He's 6 or 7. He's 7. So inshallah ta'ala, in 1 year, he will be able to finish inshallah ta'ala. Bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. The classes is from 4:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. To 12:30 what? All of that is what? Quran. How many days in the week is that? Every single day, no ifs, no buts. Now, I'm saying something to you guys. This is all being done. I'm telling you. Exhibit A. But the question here is, are you going to be able to do that? This is where it becomes hard. That's all it is. Are we all together? It gets hard. It gets hard when the parents have to do it. It takes away all your life. Are we all together? It takes away everything. When the child finishes memorizing Arba'un al-Nawawiyah, which is 42 hadiths. So they finish the Quran. All of it is done by the age of 4. By the age of 8. Hafid bi kitabillah. You take a mushaf, anywhere you grab it from the mushaf, the child should be able to tell you that ayah, the page, finish it off. Are we all together, brothers? No discrimination. Boys and girls, same. They're treated the same. 8, 9, no later than 9. Are we all together? Ideally, like in 8, the child should not pass the age of 8. Then they move on to the second greatest thing, which is the words of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet's Sunnah. Once the Quran finishes, the Sunnah. The boy or the girl memorizes 42 hadith of Imam al-Nawawi. Once they finish that, they go towards what? Umdatul Ahkam. And then your children go for what? Bulugh al-Maram. That's what I did. Umdatul Ahkam, and then I went for Bulugh al-Maram. Before Bulugh al-Maram, ideally, like it would have been a good idea for the child to go for Riyadh al-Salihin. That's fine now. Once the child has Bulugh al-Maram, Riyadh al-Salihin, any khutbah that child needs to do, any reminder that child ever needs to do, he just gets it from Riyadh al-Salihin. He's sorted for the rest of his life. All the virtuous actions he needs is in Riyadh al-Salihin. The Quran is already there. And Bulugh al-Maram is the hadith for every ruling he would probably need in his life. Salah, Zakah, Sawm, Hajj, all the fatwas that anybody would ever ask him in his life, he's got it in Bulugh al-Maram that he memorized. Umdatul Ahkam, how many hadiths? Yeah. 441. 441 hadiths. That's just the first one. And then after that is Bulugh al-Maram, which is 1,000 and something. 1,300 something. Differing on the different copies. In other words, by the age of 10, the child should have memorized 2,000 hadiths and the entirety of the Quran. On top of that, we did other things on the side. So he memorized 100 lines of poetry on the Prophet's biography. On top of that, he memorized 200 and something on Aqidah. Lines of poetry called Sulam al-Usul ila ilm al-Usul. The child also memorizes Tuhfatul Atfal, Muqaddimatul Jazariyah. Those are just done in the weekend. Okay? The child memorizes Shatibiyah, which is 1,000 lines of poetry. He does it in how long? In 2 months. Every 1,000 line is in 2 months. It's 16 days, 16 lines a day. You finish it in 2 months, 1,000 lines. Are we all together? And then after that, you make them memorize Ash'ar al-Arab, pre-Islamic poets. The child, when he reaches the age of 12, there's a curriculum I have written, he would have been at a high advanced level in terms of what he's memorized. Are we all together? Age of 12. The age of 12 is when you start telling him, by the way, all of that which you memorized, that's what you say to the child. You say, all of that which you memorized at the age of 12, I now need to explain it to you. Before 12, don't put too much effort in explaining things to the child. He won't understand it. Just tell him, swallow it. Just take everything in. He swallows everything. Everything's in his head. Everything's in his head. Just keep taking it. I promise you, I'll explain it to you if I'm ever alive. If I'm not, somebody else will take over that responsibility. I'm not going to waste your young age in other things. Memorization wears out the older you get. Lakin, understanding can always be attained even at the age of 80. Rather, the older you get, the better you understand things. Lakin, hifz goes, memorization becomes weak. So by the age of 12, If your child hasn't memorized the Quran, you wasted your child's life. You have a 12-year-old and he hasn't finished the memorization of the Quran, you wasted his life. Ask Allah for forgiveness and do it now. Start now. And make sure that they finish the Quran quickly and fast. After the age of 12, the child gains two things. He now starts the academic studies, and he also starts, he goes to halaqat, durus of the ulama and the mashayikh. He goes to lessons where they teach the 40 hadith by Imam Nawawi. He goes to classes where he goes to Umdatul Ahkam and Bulugh al-Maram. Are we all together? And they go through explanations of the books that they studied, the tafsir of the Quran, Aqidah books, and etc. And Allah knows best. That's a quick summary of what I think it should look like for a child's life. The academic studies, all of it you can do in 2 to 3 years. All of it. If you get well-qualified teachers, bring them home, say, these are my children. I want you to teach them maths, English, science, all the important sciences that they need to know. Their child will learn in those 3 years everything he needs to know for his secondary school years. And then after that, you take him to the UK for maybe a few months. He does his GCSEs, and he comes back, and then he applies for Medina University in Qura, or whatever university you want for your child. And then after that, your child has memorized all of this. He goes to Medina. What is he going there for? He's only going there for the certificate and the recognition. And then khalas. He's not worried now about these questions that people tend to be asking all the time. Shall I go to the university, or shall I sit down and go to the halaqat of the shuyukh? He's already done that when he was young. His parents didn't waste his time. Huh? Or some of your children are going to say to you, Dad, Mom, I don't want to go towards that path of becoming a scholar. What do you want to become? I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. No problem. It's fine. But do you know what they are? They've memorized so much that when they become doctors, they're in their field, they're going to be teaching people and benefiting the ummah. Are you with together? And Allah knows best. Yes, definitely listening to the Quran is of great benefit. I mean, a lot of us can already testify to how many things have we just memorized without looking at it, but we just heard it so many times. Repetition, by hearing things, you do memorize it. But the children, they combine between reading, by looking at the mushaf and listening to it. Once, of course, they listen to it so many times, 50 times per page, 50 times per ayah. Of course, when they switch it off, they need maybe 10 to 15 minutes just to quickly put their thoughts together, read it from the page, and Ibrahim, go bring your mushaf. I just want to show something to people. This mushaf his mushaf he started with when he was 5 years old. He's now 10 years old, 5 years ago. It hasn't changed. There's no other mushaf he can pick up. We don't allow any other mushaf for him. This is the mushaf you started with. You need to stick to this mushaf. So what we do is we tape it. If it rips, we try to glue it together. On there is all the mistakes he's made. So there's like pencils, a pencil mark that's around every letter that he's... Yeah, some scholars, they say you shouldn't write on the mushaf. Like in min babi ta'lim, it's permissible. So you mark that place where the child memorized wrong. So even later, when somebody wants to listen to his Quran, he gives them his mushaf, and they listen to it. They know the circles are where he done wrong when he was young. So they're going to be like, why are you doing the same mistake again? And that's when the focus comes in. Okay, why are you doing this? So the child, he does read from the mushaf. He does what? He does read from the mushaf, but he listens to it. The Quran doesn't stop. Wherever he is. If he's walking with you, if you're in the car, if you're jumping on a taxi, if you're on the little jerk, it's everywhere, the muraja'ah. You can't, let's do that one page, that two pages, that 2 juz, 3 juz. Everywhere you guys go, you do it. So let me just show you the mushaf. So this is his mushaf. What we do is, every page in that mushaf is marked, you see? There's the marks of his mistakes, underlined. So when I'm listening to him, I ask him, فَإِن لَمْ تَجِدُوا فِيهَا أَحَدًا هيا. Read it. So this was the mistake he did when he was what? When he was first memorizing it. It's marked for me. So that page he's going to read it 50 times again. Are we all together? So you make the child go over it again. You say, hey, Wallahu bima ta'amalun, hey. Wallahu bima ta'amalun alim. Carry on. That was another mistake generally he did before. So it's marked here. He didn't do that mistake. But I'll keep an eye on this one. So I'll give him back his mushaf and I'll say to him, فَإِن لَمْ تَجِدُوا فِيهَا أَحَدًا فَلَا تَدْخُلُوا حَتَّى يُؤْذَنَ لَكُمْ. Go read that ayah 50 times. This mistake seems to be stuck in your head. Does that make sense? It hasn't fully gone. Does that make sense? Why? Because he might trick me sometimes and get it right once, and maybe another day he gets it right. He has got it right a few times. But it's not in his permanent memory. Now he's nervous, so he's getting it wrong. The mistake is he should close his eyes and be able to say, it should just come out of his mouth without him having to what? Think of it. That can only come when the repetition is at a high level. There's a sheikh, I don't want to mention his name. He was in the salah, he fell asleep, and he read an entire juz for us. As he was praying. And guess how we knew he slept? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, now. He thought something ran over his leg. Are we all together, brothers? An entire, he's just reading. And he's tired and are we all together, brothers? So this shows you, it's become repetition for him, khalas. He doesn't need to. He's not thinking when he reads it. He's just mouth. That will happen. It does happen. When the person has been doing this for like 37, 40 years. But they've been finishing the Quran every 3 days. Say that again.
What is the tartib for muraja?
The tartib for muraja.
As the student ages or when he grows up, I mean, how does he keep all that he memorized intact?
Okay. So as a child, he does page, right? When he finishes the page, that entire surah he has to give it to me. It's called Jama'. We stop. You don't carry on to the next surah. That entire surah you have to give it to me. Of course, as you go up, the surahs become a bit long, so you have to split it into half. But the beauty here is, there is Jadid, there is Jama', and there's what we call Somali Subah. Subah is just ayah. So مُطِعِينَ مُقْنِعِي رُؤُوسِهِمْ لَا يَرْتَدُّ إِلَيْهِمْ طَرْفُهُمْ وَأَفْئِدَتُهُمْ هَوَاء. So he takes an ayah, I take another ayah. We do that. We can do that while we're driving. So I take my ayah, I'm driving. He takes the other ayah. I take another ayah again. He takes the other ayah. We keep going as long as we can. That one is what? 3 juz, 2 juz, a juz, whatever you can do. Ideally, the quicker you finish and you start. So for example, he's finished. There's no jadid, there's no jama'. He just has to keep reading what? So for him, if he doesn't finish the Quran every 7 days, his memorization is going to become weak. Yeah, and from memory. Every 7 days he has to finish. If he wants to even be much, much better, he has to make it every 3 days. 10 juz. And the Quran will stick. Until it becomes part of his, part of him. The Arabic language, they've now got a teacher that comes to them who teaches them Arabic. So, again, Arabic language, the person who's studying it studies it from 2 perspectives. What are the 2 perspectives? I've said this to a few brothers I met. There's a receptive skills and there's a what? Productive skills. A lot of people focus on any language that they're studying, the receptive skills. The listening and the reading. And a lot of us already have that skill anyways. You can understand the person who's talking to you. You can understand the khatib, what he say. But you don't know how to talk. You lack the productive skills. You can't produce. And production is two things. It's speaking and writing. From your own self. Are we all together? So I overcome. I brought a teacher for them from Azhar. And what he does is he sits with them for like 3-4 hours. He comes with and he sits with them. And he teaches them a book, and he makes them memorize poetries, and he talks to them in Arabic. And whilst they're talking, he corrects their speech and says, "Why are you saying this and why are you saying that?" Until they become very good at the Arabic language. And by the way, he has to memorize hundreds of poetry. So he memorized Imru al-Qais and Ibn Zurayq al-Baghdadi. The poetry helps. By the way, the Quran is in Arabic, right? The Quran is the richest Arabic text. So by memorizing the Quran, you're by default being introduced to so much terminologies, especially if you learn the tafsir of the Quran. But I believe the immersion skill is very important. I'm also their grammar teacher. So I teach them grammar every day from, what time? 6 to? 5 to 7. Every day. So I've got a board in the house. I stuck it in the house. And I'm their teacher. I come in and I say, "No one call me daddy." So I treat them like I'm a teacher.